Tejasvinavaditamastu ma vidvishavahaihi. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Bhadram Karnevi Shrunuyama Devaha Bhadram Pashyemakshaviryajatraha Sthirairangaih Sushtuvanabhusasthanubhi Vyashema Devahitaryadayuhu Swasti na Indro Vrtashravaha Swasti na Pusha Vishvavedaha Swasti na Saksho Arishtameni Swasti no Brihaspatir Dadatu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. I see a lot of smiling faces. Different reasons, I suppose. But good, you're doing that. Very well. Okay. Very good. Smiling faces. It's amazing. Smiling faces. So good. It's amazing. In like what, 2-3 days you can learn, huh?
Yeah.
It's very nice. Okay. Okay. So now this is what an individual does on his or her own to help himself from this smallness, right, and to become slightly more fulfilled, slightly bigger. Yes, this dharma, consideration for being right already makes you an evolved person, right? I mean, you have never heard of Veda, you have never heard of Vedanta, and you can be a reasonably evolved person even if you don't know all these names. Oh, I'm following Samanya Dharma, I'm following Swadharma, I'm doing Lokasangraha, right? Nobody knows these names, but you can just try to be a good human being, you can try to extend yourself, help somebody out, right? And you can think about your duties, and you can also be thinking about not just the easy way, but the right way. And there are hundreds of human beings in this world who actually follow dharma, right? And in fact, many people, especially in India, it's a very common thing, right? So somebody says that, oh, I'm going to, somebody talks to their friend, oh, I'm going to Vedanta class. So they will say, oh, you're going to Vedanta class? Which is a spiritual class? They said, yeah, okay, yeah, it's a spiritual class. So they'll say, I'm doing all my duties, I'm a good human being, I don't hurt anyone, I try to help people as much as possible, so that means I don't need spirituality. What it then means is, it's a very common sentence in India. So yeah, it's interesting. So that means, what does this sentence imply? First, it's good enough. I don't need anything more other than this, and this is the highest which is possible, right? And I'm doing it, so it implies that. And the other thing which implies, it's very interesting, they may not even recognize it, but it implies that the spiritual people don't have it. That's why they they go there. But I have got it all, so therefore, right, you're the lost one. So you're going to see, that's why it's interesting what we say, right? We don't even at times understand the implications of what we say, right? So this is why it seems as though this is the highest that one can get, and then you're going and looking for spirituality because you're not able to do this, and I'm already able to do this, so I don't need to go there. You see? Right. So therefore...
But how is this working? I mean,
why should I do it? Why should I be good? I mean, just for goodness, or I mean.
No, I mean, so Tobias, just remind yourself there is a feedback mechanism.
Yeah, I understand, but you talked about those people who just stop at a certain point.
Yeah.
For me, it was always like I was wondering because why are you? Where's the motivation coming from to act like this?
Yeah.
Because I need like the last step to fulfill the whole process. Otherwise, it's like following.
Yeah, but it's a very common. You're right. I mean, that's why. So this is why this verse, it says it requires a special qualification. What? Pariksha lokan karma chitan brahmanaha nirvedam ayat. This is the verse, right? So what is? So in fact, this brahmana, who is the one who is brahmana, doesn't mean that you have to be born in India as a brahmana. Anybody who is a discerning, discriminating human being is called brahmana. Okay, so the discerning human being comes to know that even in this world, on my own, this is the highest that I can be, to be a good, responsible human being, but it's not a solution to my fulfillment. This is one step that you need to recognize, right? So that means dharma in itself is very good. Please don't then say, see, this reverse logic is very dangerous. You cannot say dharma alone cannot give me moksha, therefore leave dharma. Right? Dharma becomes the foundation, a strong foundation on which moksha can stay. Right? In itself is not sufficient. So when you, same thing in fact in some ways for artha and kama. Artha and kama they don't lead to moksha, true. But that doesn't mean that they are bad. Right? Everybody needs what? Some amount of the resources, right? Certain amount of relationships. These, Amba was telling me that she was talking to somebody and they said that there are some basic relationships. Which human being will survive without relationships? Actually, you can't. These are some things that you must recognize that as a human being, you are going to have some needs. Right? So that is why Swamiji used to be very aware of that. So he used to, like when people take sannyasa. So what have they renounced the whole world, so they have no relationships. And Swamiji used to always tell them, don't pretend that you're so spiritually evolved that you don't need relationships. It's not true. What he used to say is, instead of entering into some relationship like husband or children and all, convert, your relationship with your own students as a nurturing relationship. So that means you can replace, you can choose, one thing is for sure, human beings require relationships and human beings require nurturing. If you choose not to enter into one relationship of having a family, the need nurturing doesn't go away. So that means you need to convert that need of nurturing towards somebody else. And they can become that can become your students. And this is why when you engage with your students, you don't act like some superior guru who's like disconnected, who's reached somewhere and you're like these lost souls. Don't behave like that. He never behaved like that. Right? So therefore, that nurturing need is something which is part of being human. And therefore, there is what we call conversion. In some other relationships, you need to demonstrate your nurturing abilities. Otherwise, you continue to feel the void. You continue to, there are so many people who used to go to Swamiji and say, Swamiji, I understand Brahman, but I'm still feeling sad. Because some needs are not yet fulfilled. So therefore, This is how it is. So now, what happens is, this dharma is very important, but it's not the end, as Tobia is saying. Some people have recognized it. See, if everybody recognizes it, then the 7 or 8 billion population will all be studying Vedanta, right? So because they don't study Vedanta, they stop somewhere. Either they stop only at the level of Artha, or they stop at the level of Artha Kama, or they stop at the level of Artha Kama Dharma. And when you have gone to moksha, please don't think that you have rejected or gone beyond these three. Dharma becomes the foundation, and Artha and Kama, they have their own place in life. Right? So many of you, do you take vacations and you go somewhere here and there? Or not?
Vedanta retreat.
You go here and there, right? Even here you go for a walk. It's all little pleasure, right? I mean, you're not like 24 hours just studying.
Of course.
What?
Of course.
24 hours studying, right? So that means just, this, but your whole life cannot be committed to these two. Because if your whole life becomes committed to this, you become a different person altogether. But that's why in India, in the Vedic culture, you don't have problem with things, right? So when money comes to you, you thank the universe, you thank Lakshmi, you go run to the temple and say thank you. Right? You find a good husband. All the time people used to come to Swamiji and say, Swamiji, please find me a good husband. Very practical, right? Because what's the inference? Good people will go to Swamiji. See, very clever, right? Strategic, right? And this is how I found Surya. Smart living, I tell you. So this is what, we are not afraid of relationships are bad. Yeah, blah. You don't need to do all of that. Enjoy life, okay? But you can't just end here. So therefore, once you see the limitation of all these three pursuits, your life doesn't end there, right? And then you start searching for freedom, because you understand that this doesn't give you what you are really searching for. So therefore, now, where do you search? It's not as easy as it sounds, right? So now in all your stories the first night, how many different places you have gone and come and gone and come and gone? On an average, how many?
15.
Exactly, yeah, right. So it's interesting. See, please don't take yourself so seriously. So it's okay, wonderful. Enjoy. So 15 different destinations for looking for fulfillment, which is not within Artha, Kama, and Dharma. Right? So that means when you search for fulfillment, unfortunately, it's not given that this is what is going to give you fulfillment, right? So therefore, the whole wonderful world of spirituality starts. When you have decided one thing, and what is that? That the normal pursuits of Artha, security, Kama, pleasures, and Dharma don't give me what I'm really searching for. It still leaves me dissatisfied, seeking. There is still some void, there is still some lack, which I don't quite know how to fill. Okay? Now, what then happens is, you go to one of these, can you name 2 or 3? Because I have only met Swamiji and I have only gone to it. So I don't know any of these. But can you just name, but I'm always learning from you.
Ankara, for example.
Wow.
In the beginning, here I would say Christianity.
Yeah,
no?
yeah.
We were born
Yeah,
in
that fits.
Western stuff.
We didn't go there. Church was my home.
You can say,
You went
Yeah.
deliberately?
Every day.
He's a son of a priest.
Really? So this was the starting point.
yeah.
Okay, so yeah, it can start with religion, any religion, right? I mean, let's not restrict it to any one. You know, you can very often you look for religion for solution. It's a very common thing. Absolutely, absolutely.
Then normally you continue with a secret, I mean the esoteric tradition, someone like Sufism and stuff like that, you deal with that.
Okay.
And Tantra fits to it too.
Wonderful. So it's nice. See, I'm constant. Otherwise, my stories are always the same. So I'm learning from you. So very good. Okay. So then it can lead to what? Some secret traditions like Sufi and
Kabbalah.
You got
Well,
Taoism,
L,
Kabbalah, Taoism.
L, Tao. Okay. So I lost patient. K-A-K-A-B.
Kabbalah.
Oh, K-A-B-A-L. Kabbalah. Yeah. Okay. Then Tao. Then Buddhism. Then Tantra. In fact, I have to ask you guys what is all this. Okay. Then Tantra.
Neo-Advaita is one popular one.
Yeah. Neo-Advaita.
Don't forget
American Indian.
Osho.
Direct path.
It's not interesting.
Direct path. Okay. Wow.
Channeled material.
Direct. Wow. The list is okay. Channels.
Byron Katie. Byron Katie, the word. Yeah, but sure. It's too useful.
Okay, so exactly, some of it is very useful. It's not like, please don't think that these are all horrible. I mean, these are wonderful things. You know, they all helped you at this time. Right now it feels like, oh, I went to all these. But at that time, it really satisfied some need of yours. And that's okay, right? There is nothing at all. This is human journey, right? So there is nothing to be ashamed of here. Okay, so channels. Then what?
Yoga.
Yoga. Very good. That's why I didn't want to put it in Kama. Okay. Go yoga, meditation, right? And all kinds of, I don't know, aura, and I don't know, there's lots of things, right? So now all these things, please understand, it did satisfy something at that given point in time. But it still did not totally solve the problem of what? Being fulfilled, right? So therefore, you kept searching, and because each of this helped you in some way to evolve, in the order of Ishvara, it was not a waste. It brought you to a teacher who ultimately made you see one fact, which hopefully will end your spiritual search. Na asti akrutaha krutena. Na asti akrutaha krutena. Huge logic. That's the same, the second sentence. Because the sandhis are joined and therefore it doesn't seem in that form. Good. Okay? So what? The whole spiritual search, this is a big logic. It is a very important logic which distinguishes Vedanta from everything else. And you have to understand what that logic is. Okay? Na asti akrutaha krutena. What? That it means that behind all this search, whether it is artha, dharma, kama, or it is all these different things that you have pointed out, they start with one assumption. And what is that assumption?
You are full. You are this what you are searching for.
Okay. In fact, most of them, except for maybe Neo-Vedanta, they don't start with that. That you are small and you have to do something to become fulfilled. So you have to do meditation, you have to do tantra, you have to, what you have to do keeps changing, but you have to do something. Right? Now, so that means this doing is something which is emphasized because it seems as though, yeah, without doing, how can I get anything? Right? This is how we are in the world. Now, this teacher, if this is a good Vedanta teacher, they will tell you, hey, just simple mathematics, right? You don't need to give a big philosophical lecture. A small person doing what? Limited karma. Karma can never be limitless, right? So a limited, karma is limited by what? Time, space and effort, right? So a limited action, let's not even call it karma, limited action to get all these different things that we are talking about, some experience or some feeling of well-being, even the bliss that you are searching for, it starts at some point, right? So that means, which gives this limited result in time and space, because the thing is, the bliss which is not now, listen to this carefully, is going to start some other time. Does it become limited or not? Result?
Yes.
Anything which begins in time is limited, right? So with a limited result, and what you are really searching for is what? Freedom from limitation.
Yeah, but the trick is they always have a hierarchy and they tell you in the next step you will get the secret.
Yes.
Just wait for another 5 or 4 years, work hard on it and then maybe
You'll get it. Yeah, that's that's a good catch, right? So that means they don't, okay, they say, okay, maybe I will tell you something, but not now. So, so right now you have to do something. So that means whatever it is, so that's a good catch actually. So a small person performing limited action and limited what it only can give you limited result, and what you are searching for is freedom from limitation. That means through this process of becoming, doing something, right now I'm small and doing something I will solve the problem, this doesn't work for what? The final truth, which is final search of yours, which is where what you are seeking is what? Freedom from limitation. So that means there can be only, there are two possibilities. Either that there is no solution at all. You are, this is what we call existentialism. There is no such, there is no solution, so just kind of live with this, right? That's one person. You just become a pragmatic person who says, okay, I'm stuck being limited and I have to do what I have to do, right? So either there is no solution and you just have to reconcile with the fact that there is no solution, or there is a solution. And what is that solution? What could be that solution? That you are not small in the first place. Right? So that means, in the vision of Vedanta, who are you? Jiva? No. Who are you? Brahman. Consciousness is Brahman. Right? It is limitless. So that means, the starting point of Vedanta is a paradigm shift. A paradigm shift from this paradigm that I am small and I have to do something, and then as a result of doing that, then what? I will get the freedom from limitation. The starting point of Vedanta is you are already free. Then the next question comes as to what are you saying that I am already free? Because, how is it possible? So that means if there is a good teacher who will tell you, I can show you right now. Right now, I can show you that you are free. So that means the whole process of spirituality becomes what? Knowing rather than doing. Na asti apkritaha krutena. The process of doing will keep you in a limited mode. So therefore, the whole thing is, if I'm already full, the next question is, why don't I know it? Then the pursuit becomes what? The primary pursuit becomes what? Knowing. So then knowledge becomes your primary pursuit. This is the primary means. Okay, so therefore, the knowledge is something, knowledge of Atma. So now, the knowledge of Atma, the teacher also has to what? Give you. So what is the attitude you have towards this teacher? Huh?
Respect.
Reverence, respect. Because the person is not doing an ordinary job. The person is actually taking you to what you have been searching for lifetimes. Initially through Artha, Kama and Dharma, later on through spirituality, and you've been searching lifetimes. So therefore, there is a certain attitude. When you understand the importance of this, somebody who's making you see this logic and turns the whole effort from doing to knowing, and starts by not you are small and I'm going to make you big, but you are already the whole and I'm going to show you how it is so. It's a paradigm shift. The starting point is very different. Right? So therefore, he says, this word, it says what? Tat vijnanatham. For knowing this true nature of Atma, Atma is your true nature. You go to a teacher, and how do you go to the teacher? Samit Panihi. Samit Panihi means certain amount of humbleness, certain amount of reverence. Not reverence because the teacher is demanding it, because you recognize the importance of the teacher and the teaching. Right? And who is this teacher? It is said. And who is the real teacher? That also is said. Kshotriyam Brahmanishtam. Beautiful. Who has heard, who is not claiming, I sat and I figured it all out myself. Right? That I come, I have heard the Vedas, I have heard the Upanishad, which is the means of knowledge, which shows me my nature. I have contemplated on it, I have really thought about it, I have prepared myself for it, and now I get it. Right? So Kshotriyam is what? Literally it means what? Somebody who has heard. And heard what? Rock music? No. Heard the whole teaching and along with the methodology. And is holding the teaching and the methodology. And it not only is holding teaching and methodology, but as a result of that, the person is what? Brahmanishtam. Who is this Brahmanishtam? The person who sees this reality very clearly. So that means, suppose you go to a teacher who has heard all this, but the person hasn't totally understood. What will happen?
You must help you understand. You want to make you understand.
Yeah. So that means maybe the person can take you a little bit further, because at least the person has bothered to study. So at least will have some effect on you. Right? And few things that the person is able to show you, and that may be very useful for you. But ultimately, for knowing, you need the person. The words of a person who sees the reality are completely different. So therefore, you need this person who is Brahmani Nishtha. That means somebody who is so well established in the vision, and also what? Very competent in the methodology, can use the methodology to transfer the knowledge to you. And How? So what? By making you see what your true nature is. Right? So that is what he says, Shotriya Brahmanishtha. So this is what this verse says. So you've gone to Guru and now he begins to teach. Now again, a little bit of repetition. Tat etat satyam. Now what is the teacher teaching this student who has gone to learn? Yeah? Next verse. Tat etat satyam yatha sudiptitat pavakat visrut lingaha sahasrasha prabhavante sarupaha tatha aksharat vividaha saumya bhavaha prajayante tatra chaiva api yanti. Beautiful. The teacher starts, in a little bit easy way. See, the thing is, you immediately start using the methodology and start giving all these big things. The person may get intimidated. So initially you have to introduce a topic with something which is understandable, like how we saw gold and ornaments. It's understandable, right? Then you take that and you use it for something, to show something very big, right? So here also the teacher gives another example. And what is that? That all these different sparks, okay, so what that a fire has thousands of different sparks, right? So that means how many sparks are there? Thousands. And how many fire? One. So that means this example establishes the possibility that you can have thousands, just like the previous examples. You can have thousands, right? And here, this sparks and light is what? This light, right? So that means there is this light everywhere, even though it appears to be divided in small parts, but in reality it is only one fire. Okay, so this is what he says. He says, Tatha, just as all these sparks are, of the thousands of sparks come out of the same fire, so many different varieties of beings are born from this Brahman, which has not undergone any change. Right? Now, what is this word Brahman now, which is used? Now we can say, these Upanishads are confusing. You had told me earlier what? Atma is what? Chit. You remember? We used the word Chit. And what is the meaning of the word Chit? Consciousness. Now, you are using a completely different word and you are calling it what? Brahman. Right? So that means now you need to see these are the methodologies. You need they show something. By using different words, they want to show you something, right? So that means what in Taittiriya Upanishad, this is something which is very important. It uses this word Brahman. Okay, so it says what? It says Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma. In Taittiriya Upanishad. Okay, now this Jnanam word, it means knowledge, and Chit is what? Consciousness. So that means here the word knowledge is used. There, what Shankaracharya has to do in this commentary is, he has to say, even though the word knowledge is used, it actually means what? Consciousness, because of which what? Every knowledge that you can acquire. So that is what we call reconciliation. Reconciliation of what is said in one part and what is said in the other part. That's how you reconcile. right? That is what we call in Sanskrit samanvaya. Samanvaya means you don't say, oh, here it said something else and here it said something else, and how does it all fit? That doesn't happen, right? Then Sat is what? Satyam. What is Satyam? This consciousness that we are talking about is something which is existent, but it is not like a normal existence which is within time and space. It is the truth of time and space. So this is why this consciousness which is existing, it is not like existing as one of the objects in the universe. It is something which is the truth of time, space and object, and therefore it is what? Anantam. What is Anantam? Limitless. Okay. Now, what is this Brahman word? The Brahman word, it says, you are this Brahman. So that means the word Brahman comes from the Sanskrit root which is called Bruhi. In Dhatu Patha, everything is in the seventh case. So actually it is Bruhi. Okay, let me not get into these technicalities. Okay. So it means big. Okay. Now the root meaning of this word Brahman is big. Now normally the word big is a noun or an adjective? Adjective, right? So that means the bigness, if you use it as an adjective, then the bigness that it indicates depends upon noun that it qualifies. What it means is, suppose I say big table. How big will you imagine? What kind of image will come in your mind?
Table big.
Exactly, like this, right? But suppose I say big mountain. What kind of bigness will come to your mind? Himalayas, right? So that means the bigness has changed its dimensions completely, right? Why? Because it's an adjective, right? And the bigness that it conveys is dependent upon noun that it qualifies. Here, the interesting thing is, this word Brahman is used not as an adjective, but as a noun itself. What does it mean? Big, but no limits. With no limits, exactly. So that means big without any limits. Okay, so in case you missed it the first time, Satchidananda, here it is said, hey, what we are talking about is limitlessness, which is what? Big without any limits, limits in terms of time, limits in terms of space, and limits in terms of object. 3, right? It is free from any limitation. Now, so therefore, suppose when you used the word, listen to me carefully, when you used the word Sat Chit Ananda, and suppose you translated the word Ananda as bliss, what will happen?
Experiential intent.
Exactly.
This is
You
something
will-
experience.
You will convert this into, because bliss that you don't have now, come back to this logic. You are small now, and then some knowledge will happen, and then it will give you, so this bliss begins or not. If it is not now, and it is going to come later, it is called what? Beginning. Beginning of that bliss in time and space. So that limit at the beginning, it cannot then qualify for excellent. This is how you reconcile things. Do you understand? That's why, not because I'm telling you that Ananda does not mean bliss, given all these factors, you cannot take the meaning as bliss. Right? And the second reason why you can't take it as a meaning of bliss is what? If you saw gold, inheres every object. If bliss was the nature of Atma, and every effect should inhere what?
To give you this.
Bliss. Right? So that means logically, this is what I say, little deviation and the whole logic will fall apart. This is why you can't afford to make a small mistake. How critical it is. It's like Sudoku. Each piece has to be in its right place.
Did I hear you say first time Anandam and then Anandam with a T or a D?
Yeah, so here this word literally means limitless. And Ananda actually is a word for what? It's a Sanskrit word for in a common parlance. The word means what? Happiness. So now, some people who are not very well versed in the tradition, what they do is, it can't be a normal happiness, so now let's call it something else, which is called bliss. And now, let's make it as something which is permanent. What they figure, what they don't understand, something simple is what? Something which begins is never called what? It's limited in time and space. Anything which begins in time has to end in time. And there are so many people who buy it also, they don't use this simple logic to say, hey, how? Right? So this is why this discerning person is a very important thing in spirituality. Right? So this is why this Ananda only, it cannot be translated as bliss, it is what we call, it is limitlessness. Then the next question, now I should not go on further because I can keep on analyzing it further. But right now, let's stop here. Okay, so now, what is Akshara? Akshara is that which doesn't undergo any decline. Okay, so therefore, from this Brahman, Sat Chit Ananda, the entire universe comes into being. And what is your relationship with this Sat Chit Ananda, from which everything comes, like from the fire, all the sparks are away from fire? No. So in this example, spark is equivalent to us. Right? And here the fire is equivalent to? Exactly. So that means these all, but don't start imagining that we are pleased. Every example has its limitation. So don't now say, oh, my teacher told me I'm a spark of consciousness. Right?
Or each one of us has a spark of the divine in us.
Exactly. See, this is a very, anything that you say,
Yeah, it's common.
it's a very common thing. Right? This is why you can't leave things just like hanging. The examples show one thing and they also fall short somewhere else.
Can you translate Chit is consciousness?
Yeah, Chit is consciousness.
Brahman.
Brahman, so this existence, consciousness, which is limitless, is this Brahman, and that Brahman you are.
But there is not one
So,
word, one translation.
There is not.
No.
Okay? Brahman is that which is big without any limitation. That is the meaning of the word Brahman.
Brahman.
It starts with Ayam Atma is Brahman. Your Atma is Brahman. And what is this Brahman? Satyam, Jnanam, Anandam. Okay. So now, this is the example. From this, the whole universe came. Yeah? So that we have seen. Now, again it is explained, where will you find this Satyam, Jnanam, Anandam, Brahma? We go to mantra 2. Divyaha hi amurtaha purushaha sabahya abhyantaraha hi ajaha apranaha hi amanaha shubraha akshara parataha paraha. So that means the second time, now this, because kind of the Upanishads understand that the first time you explain it may not be totally clear. So again, it begins to tell you what this Brahman is. It is Divyaha. Okay? So Divyaha doesn't mean that it is what we call self-shining. Doesn't mean that it is light. Please don't say, oh, today I saw Brahman light. Don't say that. Self-shining means it is something which is self-revealing. Self-revealing for all of us. Right? So this is why it is, that's why I am is something which is always with us. The only problem is we take it to be something other than what it is, but I am is shining for all of us. Swataha, self-shining, divyaha. Okay? It is amurtaha. It is because it is self-shining and it is the whole, it is not one of the objects of the universe. It is not shining as the objects. There is one exercise that our teacher used to make us do in order to recognize the meaning of self-shining. Very interesting. He says, suppose I ask you that is this object there? In order for me to answer, what you will have to, this object has to be what? In light. So that means this object that shines in front of you is actually shining because of the borrowed light from whom?
Sun.
Sun. So that means the Sanskrit word is, one is bhati and the other one is anubhati. One shines by itself and the other one shines after. Let's use this methodology. One shines and this one shines after. Right? So this cup, this shines is bhati and this is anubhati. Okay. So therefore, the cup shines shines after the sun. So now this anubhati shines after the cup. Now he used to say the sun. If you close your eyes, can you see the sun or the cup?
No.
So that means to see the cup and the sun, you need eyes. So now the sun also becomes anubhati. Right? This is a method. The sun becomes anubhati. Because without your eyes, what the sun cannot shine for you at least. Right? Now the eyes without the mind, do they operate? Suppose you have gone to sleep and the sun is shining. So that means now the eyes become what? Anubhati. They require what? The mind. So that means now everything shines after. The mind, can you know what is going on in the mind without the presence of I, the self-revealing consciousness. So therefore, the mind also shines after. There is only one thing in this universe which is self-shining, and that is what? Consciousness. And for all of us. Right? So that means that consciousness is a self-revealing entity. Everything else becomes evident because of the presence of that consciousness. So this is why you call it what? Divya, amurtaha. It doesn't have any form, but it is something which is formless and at the same time self-revealing, self-shining. Okay? Sa bahya abhyantaraha. So therefore, suppose you say, this is a very common thing. I didn't find any happiness outside. So now I'm searching for happiness where? Inside. So is Atma inside?
No.
No. Wonderful. You guys are too clever. So that means, where is Atma? Everywhere. So this is what it says. Sa bahya abhyantara. It's outside and it is inside. It's everywhere. Okay? Apranaha itself, if you think it is it's something which is with you, then you may think, oh, it is referring to that which gives me life. Prana. So it says it's not prana that we are talking about, right? It is amanaha. Amanaha is what? It is not that, then you think, oh, it's something which is also inside. What is there? Mind. It says it is also not mind that we are talking about. Amanaha. What? Shubhraha. It is something which is what? Pure. Means it's never touched by whatever is going on in the mind. Right? And it is aksharat paraha parataha paraha. So this consciousness which is self-revealing to you is the cause. Don't think it's your individual consciousness. It is the cause of the whole universe. It's cause of Maya also. So now, one thing today, now I want to use a little bit of time, because yesterday a lot of people had this whole thing about, who is this I, that kept ringing in my head. So now, what you need to understand is, this mind that we have been talking about, we need to look into it little bit, just slightly, to make it hopefully little bit more clear. This mind which I have been talking about, and the way, how have I defined the mind? Tell me, up to now. Series of thoughts, right? That's what I said, series of thoughts. So it almost means as though some series of mechanical thoughts are just passing by, and then there is this consciousness which is looking those thoughts, looking at these thoughts, because of which you are able to see the thoughts, right? Now, what we need to do is, this mind is not a simple entity, it's a complex entity, and it has 4 functions. What are the 4 functions that the mind has? It is able to do 4 things, major things. One is what we call, the mind, the entire thing is what we call antahkarana, the internal instrument that you have. The first mode of mind is what we call manas. What is this manas? It is your emoting mind. So that means constantly you come across stimuli, and the stimuli produces what? Some kind of a, your senses report the data to your brain, and your brain produces some emotions related to it. That's one of the functions of the mind. So this is what we call, this emoting mind is called manas. In addition to this emotions, it's mostly related to emotions, instincts, many different things you can have.
Is
Doubt.
This is also the doubting function.
Doubting, yes, yes. Sankalpa vikalpatmikaha manaha. In one text, it is also said, the doubting, which creates, when a situation arises, you say, should I do this or should I do that? That is also part of the mind, right? So that means, please don't think it's only emotions, there are different things which are connected. But let's, as of now, yes, but doubting is also part of the mind, yes. Now, buddhi. Buddhi is what? Intellect. What is this? What does this intellect do?
Discriminate.
Exactly. So that means when you go to school and when you learn things, what generally happens is, what they do is, they cultivate your buddhi by teaching you science, by teaching you math, by teaching you economics, so that your reasoning, your faculty of seeing things, deductive logic, all this is part of your intellect. The capacity of mind to follow certain logics is something which is part of intellect, or to hold different information and put it together, see some patterns, all this is part of your logical cognitive thinking. In addition to that, there is one more function which is what we call chittam, not chit swarupa, chittam, which is what we call memories. The mind is capable of, right? There is a store of memories, and this is why, suppose after the retreat, you haven't driven for 3-4 days, you will have to relearn driving?
No.
No. Why? Because it's stored in your memory. So therefore, you have what we call, within this memory, two different kinds. One is what we call conscious memory, and the other one is what we call unconscious memory. What is this unconscious? The conscious memory is what? Your ability to retrieve what your driving, which you have learned when you were quite young, and is able to constantly retrieve and is able to make you drive today. So you are actually doing it. You are taking it out from your memory and you are doing it, even though you don't realize it. And the fourth, the unconscious memory is about things, as I told you, as a child, the messages that you have internalized as a child, what, as in case of this lady, this girl who was lying, what, that I'm not loved, my parents don't care for me, I'm not good enough. These messages, it's not like, in fact, you don't want them. Right? Who wants to constantly live with those messages? Nobody wants to live with those messages. But they are so you are not even consciously aware that they are there. But when the situations arise, and the way you look at situations is what influenced by that feeling that you had. But are you aware of it? No. So the memories of the past interfere with what you see in the present. So that's why you are convinced that you are seeing this, and you are unaware of the fact that my memories of the past are getting interfered. So this is why we call it the unconscious.
Is Pratibhasika coming from?
Excellent, excellent. This unconscious very, very often excellent. So that means when you add your own interpretations to situations without realizing it. So what happens is, what is empirically true is something different than what the mind which has produced the message. There is no matching. And because there is no matching, therefore it is called pratibhasika. You're subjective, but if you knew that it was subjective, it was interesting. Swamiji always said, if you at some time are little subjective and you are aware of it, it becomes what?
Objective.
Exactly. If you recognize your subjectivity, then you become objective because you know that right now you are subjective. The definition of subjective is what? It's there but you don't know it. Right? So that is why we need to, as much as possible, use our pratibhasika. The unconscious mind and its messages of not love, and almost every child has some feeling of inadequacy, which are very deep and painful.
So I was going to ask, how can you recognize it when it's very true?
Yeah, so that means what happens is that one interesting way to see, once I tell you that this thing exists, then what can happen is, one of the indicators is, suppose somebody just told you one little thing. Okay, I'm going to tell you the story of Ardo Papad. So, I'm going to tell you because everybody looks a little tired now. Okay, so that means how one small thing becomes such a big thing for us. This is a story. This is a story that I read when I was some 5 or 6 years old in my own language, which is called Gujarati. Right? So the name of the story was Ardo Papad. You know what papad is? This Indian crispy stuff that you eat? Papadam. Papadam, you know?
Papadam.
Yeah, papadam is it's not like chapati but some crispy stuff, right? So It's like a cracker, but Indian cracker. Okay, so it is a round size, like a chapati size. Oh, she is already feeling hungry. Okay, you have to wait for 5-10 minutes. Okay, so there was this man who went to a marriage ceremony, and in that marriage ceremony, there is a huge what we call feast. So when and the tradition is that everybody has to sit, and somebody comes and serves you the food, right? So the man was sitting, and many people, somebody was coming and serving dal, somebody was serving vegetables, and a lot of different things were being served. Now, and along with everything, what papad was also being served. So this man who was sitting, so he saw that somebody was serving papad and everybody got full papad, and when his turn came, he was given half papad. So he was a little bit surprised, and he said, and then he deliberately watched what everybody else is getting, and everybody else was getting full papad. So now this man, he says, what is the truth? That yes, everybody else got full papad and he got half papad. That is the truth. Now what he started thinking is, oh my God, the host doesn't like me. And not only that he is not liking me, but he wants to insult me in front of everyone. So he has devised this method in front of everyone. Everybody else gets full papad and I get only half papad. And this is mean, this is unacceptable, he is just, this is just not the way to do it. If he really didn't like me, he shouldn't have invited me. But this insult, I cannot tolerate. Right? So that means, what happened to rest of dinner? Was all gone, right? Because where is the mind? Not on this yummy wedding food, but what? That this man was so mean to me. Now when he goes home, he says, I cannot let him go like this with this insult. I have to show him back that this is just not acceptable to me. So, what can I do? I also should call everyone and serve everyone full papad and serve him half papad so that he realizes how bad it feels to be served half papad. So therefore, what he kind of, he says, yeah, but I don't have enough money. So what? I will earn enough money, right? So he earns enough money, he works really hard. For what? For revenge. Right? To hold a function, to call everyone and to insult him. So that means he works really hard. Now he has gained enough money. And now he is going to, he said, now finally the chance has come, right, to show him how it feels. So he calls everyone and then he says, I myself am going to serve the papad. I want to see his expression and I want to see how it feels and I want to show him a lesson. This showing a lesson is a very big need in all of us. He did this to me, I want to show him the lesson, right? So therefore, then he starts everybody is there, everybody is eating, everybody is sitting, then all the food is being served, and this man, he himself goes and serves full papad to everyone and serves him half papad. Now, when he serves him half papad, what is this person's reaction? He doesn't react. He has zero reaction. It's a complete non-event for him, right? He doesn't even notice that everybody else is given full and I'm given half. Pratibhasika. The first one's pratibhasika took him from where to where, right? The second one, right? Suppose the second one has no issue with that. What will happen? Suppose he wants more. He'll ask for more. As simple as that. Our life becomes complicated, right? There is an external event. What is the external event? You got half and everybody got full. That's an external event. That is what we call Vyavaharika. It's empirically true, right? This insult, revenge, feeling bad, feeling humiliated, where does that belong? Pratibhasika. So that means this Pratibhasika, if you don't take care of, it will continue to rule you. That's why one of the other things in Vedanta that you have to do is what this emotional maturity of getting your emotions right. And a lot of these emotions also come from this Pratibhasika, right? So all this needs to be corrected. Otherwise, it will keep you, like how people were going to Swamiji and saying that I understand, but I still feel, and it's a common, I mean, because it is only an indicator. Ishvara's indicator, something needs to be taken care of. Right? So this is what we call Pratibhasika. And finally, there is what we call Ahankara. This Ahankara, this Aham is I, and this is a very interesting thing. It gives you a sense of I. There is a function in your mind which is what relating everything that happens to what your mind, your intellect, your memory, it all gets connected to I. What I mean is, suppose an external event produces sadness in you. What is the message? There is a manas which is producing the emotion of sadness, and almost simultaneously you tell yourself what? I am sad. So that means this sadness which is there gets connected to I am. Suppose you go to a class, right? And you go to, you are an engineer, Stefan? Okay, you are an engineer. And suppose Stefan goes to an engineering class and he begins to, I mean, he's pretty smart, so I'm sure he understands things. So one is cognitive skill, means he's understanding what the teacher is talking about, but maybe Stefan thinks I am intelligent. Right? So that means there is one thing which is your cognitive capacity, which is your ability to understand things well, but here simultaneously your mind produces another message, and that is what? I am intelligent. Then suppose this, right? So you're retrieving this memory and your hands are what? On the wheel, and your leg is on the brake, and what are you saying? I am driving. Now, so that means this is almost like a central processing unit where everything is connected to I.
The owner.
Exactly, the ownership of everything that is going on. Right?
Is it also true that the translation is I maker, something like this? Ahamkara is like the I maker? I heard this before.
We call it the sense of I. It gives you a sense of I, which is not really your true I. Yeah. So in Sanskrit we say it as sense of I.
Neema, is that when you say sense of I, Atma?
No. The real Atma is what? This is just one of the functions of the mind. Right? So what is the real nature of Atma? Unchanging reality, which is Satchidananda. These are the different functions of the mind. This is why we get confused with what our identity is still I am, but where is it? It's here. What does Vedanta do? It moves this identity from here to the real I, which is changeless consciousness, which is limitless. This is not limitless, right?
Can you say ego?
Now, when you ask me a question like that, you need to first tell me what you mean by ego. Because see,
This I, what is jumping on all different I do, what you're just saying?
Because see, in common parlance, you use the word ego, and he is very egoistic. And what does it mean?
Selfish.
So you see, when you try to use, you can use it, but actually then you have to be very careful as to what you mean, and you have to take out some other meanings that is not meant by here. This is why one has to be very careful in the use of words in Vedanta becomes critical. Because you end up conveying something totally different. Then if you take it as ego, as pride, then people say, oh, in order to get to the nature of Atma, you have to eliminate your ego. Do you see the whole teaching changes? Because here, can you eliminate this function of the mind? No. All you need to understand is, this is the function of the mind, and I am is something which is independent of the mind. Do you understand? That's why in spiritual, pseudo-spirituality, what they tell you is, oh, remove this I am. Do you see that? You see, you make one mistake and so many mistakes follow.
You mix up two different systems. No?
Exactly.
It's the same.
Absolutely.
Like soul, it's the same.
Exactly. So please be very careful in your zeal to reconcile everything that you know and match it with Vedanta. Please don't make a mess of it. I mean, that's one thing that I'm saying. I mean, be careful with words. You can use whichever word you want, but you have to define it. And you have to explicitly tell everyone what you mean by it. Yeah? That is very important. So now, the further complication happens, that is, this I am is not only connecting the emotions and buddhi and chittam, but it also connects the different conditions of the body and senses to I am. What it means is, suppose if the body has aged to what? 35, you say what? I am.
I'm not 35.
I'm not 35. Now, everybody has to guess, older or younger?
Shall we say?
25.
Okay. Right? So therefore, what happens is, the different, I am sick. The different conditions of the body also get connected to this I am. Right? This function of the mind. Different conditions of the senses also get connected to this I am. I'm not seeing well. Eyes. What is the truth? The eyes have slightly deteriorated in their vision. And what is the message you give to yourself? What? I am not seeing well. Okay. Now, the point of all of this is not to try to eliminate talking about this, this is a function of the mind. This is Ishvara Srushti. This is how everybody is born, right, with this I sense. So you don't need to, as Bio said, you don't need to change your vocabulary. This is how Ishvara has made the world, right? The only knowledge means you have to understand, while this is the function of the mind, my truth is what? Consciousness, which doesn't get involved. In fact, this I am keeps changing all the time. I'm sick, I'm well now. I'm sad, I'm happy. So that means it's in a constant flux, right? And as we saw, there is a consciousness in whose presence the changing thoughts about I am. 1 minute I am happy, next minute something else happened, I'm not so happy. So all these different I-related thoughts keep changing. You're not trying to stop these thoughts. You're not trying to hold them constant. You're only understanding that they are of the nature, this function of the mind which relates everything to I am. And my real I is what? This consciousness, because of which I'm able to see these changing thoughts. Not only this, but also all of this. And the changing condition of the body, and the changing condition of the mind, and the cup, and the sun, and everything else. Okay? So this is what we mean by what? That apranaha amanaha. So this, when everybody was asking me yesterday, that who am I? So generally, where is your self-identity before you come to Vedanta? Not in Jiva. Where? In the present manifest mind. Because part of Jiva is what? Unmanifest. Right? So so many birds which are gone are unmanifest. Many birds are yet to come, they are unmanifest. Right now, what is manifesting, that has a sense of I. Yeah?
So to directly translate the I am,
Yes.
that is the I sense into Sanskrit, what would be the word for that? Would that be ahamkara?
There is ahamkara.
So the ahamkara equals I am, that is awareness, that is the sense of I am.
No.
So once again, so
No.
ahamkara equals sense of I am. Okay.
Sense of
But the awareness
Yes.
of the sense of I am, that's Atma.
Because of which you see this changing sense of I. That is called Satchidananda, which is unchanging, while this is changing. Yeah? And this is limited because your I sense is different from my I sense, is different from your I sense, whereas this consciousness is one, limitless, pathless whole. Yeah?
The Sukshma Karira,
Sharira.
and the Antakara,
Yes.
the one is more functions than the other, or?
Okay,
Because we
Sukshma
used to-
Sharira, okay, that's good. Okay, Sukshma Sharira includes Sharira, sorry. Includes a few things. It includes anything about you that is not visible to me. So that means what I can see your physical body, but I cannot see the capacity of your five senses. So that means I can see your physical eye, but I cannot see what sight they enjoy. So that means the capacity, there is a physicality about senses, but there is something which is the capacity of those senses which is subtle, which is not known to me. So that means the Sukshma Sharira is what? The capacity of five sense organs, five senses, then the capacity of organs of action. So that means I can see your physical hand, but I can't see, just by looking at it, the extent to which you are able to move it. Right? So this is what we call subtle. Subtle means, but just by looking at the physical, I don't know whether it can do this, or it can do this, or it can just struggle to do this. Like today, it was making it was hard. I tell you, 5 minutes of standing like this is not easy. Right? Somebody saying my shoulder was aching. He was saying, relax. So it's like not that easy to relax, right? So that means how much are you able to hold? Different people have different capacities. So the hands look the same, but capacities are not known. So organs, capacity of organ of your action.
And
Then
there are five
pancha
also.
prana, there are also 5. Which are the organs of actions? Hands, legs,
Then speech, vak, that is anus,
Speech.
sex organs.
then the organs of elimination and organs of procreation. Okay? Then what the other is what we call pancha prana. capacity of your, this prana is a special word. Prana means the external air, when it enters your nose, it begins to perform some subtle functions. So that is, it includes what? Respiratory function, which provides air to the lungs. Respiratory functions. So that is what? Inhaling and exhaling. So inhaling, you take the oxygen, exhaling, you take out carbon dioxide, right? Then then that oxygen that you provide does what? So many different other functions. Circulation. All this is something which I cannot see by looking at your body. That's why it is called subtle. Circulation, digestion. Also in this case again, elimination. And there is one thing which is also very interesting, which is what they say, the last prana which leaves your body. This is from then on, what they call, the body is declared no more alive. So that is also, either you can count this, what, the inhaling and exhaling as 1 and 2, or there is this last prana. Last prana that leaves your body, right? So that does this final function of rendering the body not alive. So therefore, this is the function of prana. After that, even though there is an external air, what your body to absorb it and do all these functions and keep the sense organs alive and keep the physical organs alive, it loses that, right? And then you have pancha prana, and then you have what? 4 different aspects of mind. You see that? Sukshma Sharira, the subtle body, right? It includes mind also, and mind and its functions, because I also cannot see what you are thinking, and these functions of the mind are also what? 4-fold. So sometimes, see, some books will say the subtle body consists of what? 5, 15 and 16, because mind is counted as 1. Some books will say 19. Why? Because they are counting mind with its 4 functions. So this is why you can't say, oh, the Upanishads are confused. On one hand they are saying, right? It keeps changing. It keeps changing so that you remain alert that hey, there are so many different ways of counting and categorizing, and it's not so fixed, but it makes you see that this is how it is. Right? So this is what we call, that this is where your eye sense is right now. And where it takes, which is what? Consciousness, which is what? Parat Paraha. It's not personally for you. This ahankara is your personal ahankara. You are telling yourself, I'm intelligent. Somebody else can say to themselves, I'm dumb. So that means, please understand, even in this ahankara, which is a function, which is of Ishvara, you can have what? You can still add your pratibhasika. What is your pratibhasika? I am no good. Right? That is what we call inferiority complex. So to this function, you add one more load, and that I am not good enough. So this, which is an empirical reality, gets loaded with your personal projection of not being good. So even there, pratibhasika can kick in. Or you can have in the other direction, what? I am the coolest person on this earth, right? Arrogance.
So pratibhasika is basically projection of any kind?
Exactly. Superb. The projection of any kind on the world, on the people, on yourself, the projection is so widespread, and this is why, what, in order to know the final reality, you need to get it all in order first. Because mind is the tool which is what you are going to use to know the final reality. If it is afflicted with all kinds of problems, it will not make you understand the truth. Okay? So now, so this, in this functional, so what we are trying to do in self-growth, this we are not trying to eliminate the function of this I am. This you don't need to become a spiritual snob and say, body has come to this class. The mind is sad. You don't need to say that, right? What you can continue to say all of this, only understand that this is just referring to the function of the mind, right? Then, but what you do need to correct is what? The further loading that you have done of both arrogance and the diminishing yourself, which is what we call your further addition to this empirical reality of ahankara. Okay? So what you need to take out is your inferiority, which is this lack of self-image, good self-image. So you don't want a person with no ahankara, you want a healthy sense of I. Right? And want this false arrogance. That requires, because it is pratibhasika, it requires correction. Is it clear? Yeah.
Can one say that ahankara gives that which have no attributes an attribute? Like atma is attributeless, and ahankara gives this what is attributeless an attribute.
Yeah, you can say that, yes. So that means the real reality of you is Atma consciousness, which is free from attributes, but this sense of I, which is a function of mind, because this mind is born of ignorance, yeah, it's true. The mind is born of ignorance, it's a product of ignorance. It comes with this sense of I, which is naturally giving its attributes. Yes, correct.
The word that comes up in my mind is identification.
Identification,
With,
yes.
with anything,
Yes.
actually.
Sure. Yes. Second.
About the eye sense,
Yes.
you said my eye sense is different from your eye sense.
Yeah. Because it's part of the mind, no? Each mind is different.
Yeah, but if you look at it as a function,
The
is
function,
it then not the same, but the content is...
absolutely, it's the same with reference to emotions, right? All of us are capable of performing, having emotions, but your particular emotions are different from my emotions. All of us have cognitive capacity, but your cognitive capacity is different from mine. All of us have memory and unconscious memory, but what's stored in yours is different from mine. And eye sense everyone has, but what is content of that eye sense? You may be thinking, right now, at present, my eye sense will tell me I'm talking, and your eye sense will tell you what I'm hearing, hopefully. Or I'm dreaming.
So is it true that without this function, perception would not be possible, right?
Exactly. Yes. So in fact, exactly, the mind comes with this function, and it's a very important function. Right?
Not only this, you cannot live.
You cannot, yeah.
It's a biological and a functional necessity, so don't make it a devil. It's, what you are saying is so true.
Yeah.
Okay? This is how, let's say,
The mind works.
you take care and you put clothes on yourself. What you think is yourself. You give a spoon when you eat, not to Sterling, but to nobody.
Yeah, you don't get confused between putting it here and there because of this eye sense. Absolutely. Right? Okay, just one sec. Tulia.
I just want to check I have this correct.
Yes.
So any sentences that you say of I am 35, they would necessarily be incorrect because you're adding, not in the sense that I'm not 35, but because the 35-ness is in time and space. So if I say I am 35, but by the time I've said that, well, maybe that's a bad thing. Or maybe if I say 35, 6 months, 2 hours, 3 seconds, then by the time I've said that, it's not factually correct anymore. So anything that you add is always going to be within the time and space, and so that it's like you're adding it onto the I am, and therefore it's never going to be correct. Is that right?
In fact, what it means is that when you say I'm 35, right? So okay, before knowledge and after knowledge. Before knowledge, when you say I'm 35, you have really taken because your identification is with the body, right? So therefore, it seems to you as though I am 35, right? After the knowledge, you may still continue to use this sentence, I am 35. You don't need to change your vocabulary and say this body is 35, 6 seconds and my God knows what, right? So you can continue to say I'm 35, but what has happened is what? Your I, this you understand is what? Belonging to this function, right? And your real identity is what?
Is it like subjective and objective, kind of? When you identify with I am 35 before knowledge, you're a little bit subjective, you identify...
Yeah, so that means, yes, because your I is a little bit mixed up, you are within ignorance.
Yeah.
Now subjective itself, now each question needs for me to explain something else, and that is something which right now everybody is looking at the clock.
But even
So,
after knowledge, if you say I am 35, you're being subjective.
you're not being subjective.
No.
Because you understand that it actually is just a body and it is
Yeah.
35, and I'm just using, this is a function of the mind which connects, and this is how you're born, it's a biological function and it's okay, but that's not my real identity, right? Yeah. Do you understand that?
makes sense.
Yeah. Okay?
So this is Jiva Srishti, would that be correct? The superimposition of I am, filling the blanks, the superimposition of the attribute over the I am. Could I call that a Jiva Srishti?
Okay. Not now. 7 o'clock, I think people are very tired. Andre, it's only you who's like this for knowledge. Okay. Jiva Srishti, Ishvara Srishti, all of this, I think I have to explain to you in detail, and it's a big topic. Okay? So I will explain to you a little bit later. Okay? Somebody else had a question, anything small? Which is not engaging me with another huge topic. Okay, nothing else.
Very small question. I just wanted to know if you use the word witness for consciousness.
Okay, see, this...
I don't know if it's small.
Okay, no, exactly. See, what happens is, when I use the word, see, any word you can use, Lina, it's actually, as I told you, every word is going to be fraught with some limitation, right? So that means there is no such thing called perfect word. Suppose you use this word, witness, right? The first thing that people will understand is what you mean by witness is what? This is almost kind of, I'm seeing what is going on in my mind, that right now I'm sad, right now I'm happy, right now I'm sleeping, right now I'm doing things. So when you use the word witness, what will happen is people will start thinking that you are talking about this. So that's why...
You don't use it.
I don't use it. Yeah. So that means, but then you have to further clarify. And you have to say, this is what we generally mean, but actually there is one presence because of which you are even able to see this. I mean that by witness and not this, right? So that anything that you do, you can do, provided you have to make it absolutely clear. Okay? Thank you.
Should we just allow the I sense to continue or do its thing and not try to interfere with too much?
Okay, see, as I told you, in this I sense itself, there is a lot of, there is a function there which is intact, you don't need to do anything, but there is a pratibhasika, there is a subjectivity, I am no good. This needs to be changed, that I'm the one who learns the best, everybody else is stupid, you need to change. Right? Suppose the emotions that are there, which is like what? That I am depressed. So that depression, which is also this has to change, and this also then correspondingly has to change. You see what I mean? So in this entity there is some functionality and there is added subjectivity. So what we do need to do is we have to actually reduce, see, even now see, this I am is connected to all this. Suppose you take care of your emotions here, this I am is going to change automatically, right? Do you see that? Suppose you make your buddhi sharp, your buddhi needs to become sharp. This I am what I'm discriminating, I'm discerning, I'm not buying any messages left, right and center. This also changes, right? The unconscious you take care of, then you can say I'm now relatively free from the hold of that pain. You see what I mean? So that means your functional I am will remain, but as these changes, this also, the quality of these messages will also change. Do you see that?
It's like interconnected.
Interconnected.
And it has a function without we wouldn't be able to navigate through
exactly.
The world.
Exactly. But the quality of messages, the quality of that becomes healthy. Yeah? Is that okay?
Is there a link between the unconscious memory there?
Good.
And the
Actually,
causal body, I was going to say.
Sorry?
Is there a link between the unconscious memory and the causal body?
Excellent. Okay, and then there are some links, yes. So this is what, in the sense that it's true that some of the unconscious that we have acquired is in this lifetime itself. But if you ask one more question, and if you say that why were you actually born in this family with this parent who gave you this message, then it is also a little bit connected to the past. But this is why the danger of that is, yes, it's true, it's absolutely right. But you can't live rest of your life thinking that, oh, you know, I've done something wrong in the past, so now I'm suffering. So that means the whole idea is to help yourself because you are given the free will and help yourself out. And yeah, but it is connected. Yes.
But since you're born out of ignorance, there
Yes.
must be ignorance when you're born, because you're born
Exactly.
out of ignorance. So
absolutely. So this is why the ignorance precedes the mind. Right? Mind is a product of ignorance. Okay. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamad